This tutorial is all about .NET Intermediate language. We have two sections. For the first one, we are going to learn everything in practice. You will write your own .NET application using just intermediate language. No C#, no F#, no Visual Basic, just intermediate language. For the second section, we have theory. We'll talk about what is intermediate language, why we need it, and how it fits for our application. Truth be told, I always prefer theory first, but I realized that most of you don't like theory, so I decided first record the practical side and then theoretical side. Unfortunately, Visual Studio doesn't support writing intermediate language out of box, so we don't have templates like ASP.NET Web API console application to implement our intermediate language code, but we'll use any type of text editor to write our intermediate code, because when you install Visual Studio, you are already installing the intermediate language assembler and disassembler. So it is up to you to install Visual Studio 2022, 2020, or 2019, even the oldest versions. It is totally okay, because we have intermediate language assembler and disassembler for all type of Visual Studio versions. Okay, I will use Notepad++ here. So you can use just Notepad, it doesn't matter. And as I mentioned, we'll use intermediate language assembler and disassembler for our implementation. Let's first create our new file here. File new, you can press, or from this icon you can just press to create a new file. And let's just save it to our C drive. I have .NET app, and from the save as type, let's select our old types and let's name it ilcode.il, just like this. Okay, and let's start our development process. In our development process, we always start with referencing to external sources. Okay, in my case, I will type .assembly. .assembly indicates that we are planning to create or reference to assembly, and with external keyword, it means we are externally referencing to MS Core Lib. This is our must-have library, because we have system object there, we have a lot of methods that we are going to use in our MS Core Lib here, and this brackets here indicates that we are completely referencing to MS Core Lib. Okay, the second step here is to define our own assembly. For our own assembly, we'll use the same naming, so assembly, and let's call it first IL project. That's all. And for the module, I will use the same name with exe file. Okay. What does it mean? It means for our assembly file, we may have multiple modules. They are logically isolated code parts. For the you can compare it like you have a process. For your process, you have thread. Okay, and this is our main thread, but it is possible for you to have multiple threads. In our case, we have one assembly with one module here. We are not using this module stuff when we'll write our C# code, but this is just a logical isolator. You can just bypass this step. You can just remove it, but let's leave it as is. And now it is time to define our classes. When you create your console application, you have program CS with main method. I will try to simulate the same step here. Okay, for that reason, I'm typing that class. All intermediate language classes start with .class. Okay, and for that class, let's use the public. Okay, and our class name, it is going to be, let's say, program. You can use any class name like in your classical C# application. Okay, this is our program class, and this program class inherits from system object. When you decompile your application, your C# application, you should realize that there is a line for your classes that inherit from system object if you are not inheriting from other classes. You always have inheritance in your classes. Okay, And we are referencing to MS core lib. So MS core lib. For the MS core lib, we need first to extend our class, of course. Extends MS core lib system.object. So we are extending our program CS. We are inheriting. Okay. So this means this in your C# code. Okay. And of course, we have brackets here. For the method definition, as you understand, we'll use dot method. For the classes, we use dot class. For the methods, we are using dot method. Okay, let's go for it. Dot method. Dot method. Cool. So this is our method. And for the method, you can use the public type of stuff. It doesn't matter for now for us. Let's static void and our main. Here is an interesting thing. You can use any naming, but when you indicate your method with entry point, mark it with entry point, it means this is your entry point method. So for me, my main, I can use like this, and I can provide these string arguments as in our template signature that will indicate that this is CLI managed code. So we are writing intermediate language managed code inside our main method. So we are marking our method with CLI managed attribute here. And let's define our entry point. So this is going to be our main method. It doesn't matter what type of naming you are using here. If you mark your method with entry point, it means this is going to be run when you double click on your executable file in this case, okay? And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create hello world from intermediate language. So let's first load string. LD_str is a .NET instruction that helps you to move string to the stack. Why? Because intermediate language is object-oriented, is stack-oriented. So in our case, we should create some string, put it to our stack to load it from there. Okay, so load string hello from intermediate language code. And now you are able to call your console write line, read line, etc. So let's call, okay, call, and we'll call our console write line that doesn't return any value. So it is going to be void from the MS core lib. I am going to use system console. Let's do it in a proper way. Okay, so the meaning of including MS core lib to our project is to use it when you inherit or to use it when you need some functionality from MS core lib. Okay, and these symbols will help you to call the exact method you want. So just string. So in our stack, we have the latest information called hello from IL code. And when you call your system console write line with a string, it means we will get this string from stack and we will print it out. Okay, and just return. So let's save it. It means for every method, it doesn't matter if it is void or not, you always have return. When you dive into details of intermediate language, you understand C#, F#, Visual Basic type of .NET languages in depth. So you always learn that when you void, nothing to return, but you understand that even in your signature, when you have void, you should return for the lower level intermediate language. Okay, cool. And what I want to do, I just want to call string. For now, let's not just call, let's try to compile our application first. I will add some read line here, but first let's try to compile our application. For that reason, just hit your Windows button here, type developer command prompt. So depending from your Visual Studio version, you will have developer command prompt, Visual Studio 2020, 2019, 2022. In my case, it is 2022. Let's press and let's go for LASM. Okay, this is our LASM tool application that allows us to compile intermediate code. In our previous tutorials, we talked about LDASM. This is disassembler, but in this case, we'll use assembly process rather than disassembler. Okay, and so let's reference to .NET app folder and ilcode.il. Let's hit enter and voila, our application successfully compiled. Let's go C .NET app folder and we have il code. So to run it, just go to C .NET app ilcode.exe. Let's hit enter and here we are. This is our hello from ilcode. Okay, cool. Now let's add some read line here. For that reason, I'm just call our console read line will return string. So I am defining this string returning mechanism here. So from ms core lib, let's call system console read line. This will take your string, take your any symbol you type from the console to stack. Okay, and before closing your application, you need to dispose, let's say dispose this string and take it from stack. And for that reason, we are typing pop, push pop in stack. Okay, cool. Now let's try to compile application again. I'm just going to remove our il code here. Okay, and let's zoom a little bit and type LASM C.NET app ilcode.il. Hit enter. Let's go to the folder, double click, and here we are. This is our hello from ilcode. Hey, this is our second part of .NET Intermediate Language tutorial. We are going to talk about .NET Intermediate Language itself, what, why, when, and of course, we'll talk about compilation process of .NET applications, okay? This is our .NET flow, compilation flow. So in .NET platform, we have more than 100 languages, but we are actively using C#, F#, Visual Basics. For that reason, I often mention only these languages. So let's say we have C# code. Let me show you. In our case, we have this sort of C# code. This is simple console application. When you click to run it, we have compilation process in this case, okay? But unlike Delphi, Pascal, C, or other non-.NET languages, we are not directly compiling our code into machine instructions. This is really important. So in the middle, we have some sort of additional abstraction layer. Let me show you. So when you run your C# code, we have C# compiler. When you run your Visual Basic, we have Visual Basic compiler. Per language, we have compiler. Okay, for F# compiler. And this compiler's responsibility is not directly compiling your application into CPU instructions, let's say into machine instructions. Instead, in the middle here, we have intermediate language code. So it doesn't matter which programming language you are using. Of course, it should be .NET language. We are converting our compiler converts all these instructions, high-level instructions, C# code, into CIL or MSIL, Common Intermediate Language, Microsoft Intermediate Language, or you can call it just Intermediate Language, okay? Cool. And now we have Intermediate Language instruction. But to make sure that we are able to compile these instructions to CPU, we need CLR. But first, let me explain from scratch. When you run your application, in our operation system level, we have process loader. This process loader's responsibility is to load your application into memory and to do additional checking, like if this application is a really .NET application. There is metadata information, header information in your code, and from these instructions, process loader understand that, yes, this is a .NET application. And after that, our process loader, let's say tricks, takes control over CLR. It just instantiates our CLR and takes control over to CLR. We have tons of responsibility on CLR, like managing and executing .NET applications, memory allocation, external assembly management, security, exception handling. All these functionalities, all these roles are in our CLR, okay? And one of the components of CLR is going to be our Jit compiler. Actually, our Jit compiler takes our intermediate language code we wrote before and compiles it to CPU instructions. Why Jit compiler? Because Jit compiler has optimization mechanism. It can optimize, and it is better than directly compiling code to CPU in most cases. Okay, that's how we are dealing with compilation process. And of course, the other thing related to IL is why you need to understand IL. In our previous example, let me show you again. In our previous example, we have this sort of application. It doesn't matter what type of EL application you're writing, you are learning internals of your high-level language. If you are a C# developer, you are starting to understand what happens behind the scenes under the hood of .NET platform, okay? So, for example, you understand that this entry point is related, for example, this is really simple application, but let's try to gain some information what we are learning here. For example, what first I learned when I started to learn intermediate language, that every class inherits from system object. It doesn't matter if you are directly typing your class. For example, in C#, we are not defining inheritance for our classes by default. If actually, depending from your business, you have an inheritance, you are inheriting, but other case, you are just defining your class. But even this class also inherits from system object. This is one information you learned, okay? The second one, there is no need exactly to define main method, okay? If you mark it with entry point, you can call it any name you want. And of course, you learn the stack. This is very important. In some cases, people confuse that what is a stack, how to use it in practice. So under the hood, .NET platform use stack a lot because this is object-oriented, this is stack-oriented. Unlike assembly language, I personally started my career with assembly language. In assembly, we don't have high-level instructions, okay? We have just CPU-based instructions, but our IL code here is object-oriented also. For example, you have class, you have methods, you can reference to other method, to other class. So this is some sort of object-oriented mindset here. And also you learn some stack operations, you learned what is CLI managed, so common intermediate language managed code. So you are starting to understand that what is unmanaged code, what is managed code. When you reach to this line, you start to investigate what is a managed concept, what is unmanaged concept. So it helps you to learn more rather than building a simple application and learn some syntactical sugars using C# language, okay? That's how I think about the intermediate language, of course. And let's switch to our demo. This is the simple introduction, but if you want to understand where to use intermediate language, actually nowadays we are almost not using intermediate language, but if you need some sort of optimization, if you need some sort of reflection-oriented development, metadata programming, in some cases you will use intermediate language to do optimization like emit, reflection, etc. But this is a bit advanced topic. The purpose here is to help you to understand how the process looks like, the entire picture of compile process, and what is intermediate language and how it works. Well, that's almost all. If you like my videos, please don't forget to subscribe, hit like button, share if possible. See you in the next tutorials.